Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is present, everyone. Welcome back for a little bit more SPTV, where every day is one step closer to the demise of Scientology. How about that one? Do you like that new intro? Oh, by the way, before I forget, quick reminder. I am getting every day a little bit closer to 170,000 subs, and I have pledged to donate $500 to the Aftermath Foundation when I hit that target. So if you like what I do here, and you want to help the Aftermath Foundation, and you're not yet subscribed, consider hitting that subscribe button for me. I would really appreciate it. Guys, we are here to talk today about L. Ron Hubbard and his statements indicating that David Miscavige is a squirrely squirrel. Now, what in the hell does that mean? Scientology has its own lingo. And in Scientology, calling someone a squirrel is like Scientology's version of the N-word without, the historical oppression. So squirrel in Scientology means someone who alters Scientology, is incapable of applying it correctly, is constantly trying to alter it to improve it out of some idea of self-importance. Someone in Scientology who always thinks they can make it even better than L. Ron Hubbard made it. And it literally is one of the biggest insults in Scientology that you can call someone. And yet, based on L. Ron Hubbard's own writings, David Miscavige is a squirrel. Now, this is an interesting line of criticism because on the one hand, former Scientologists, for the most part, are involved in criticizing Scientology for its abusive practices, for being a fraud, for being a con, for destroying families, for bankrupting its members. And that criticism is almost more appropriate or more well received by people who are either former Scientologists or never been in Scientology. And yet, to people who are still in the Scientology bubble, the biggest criticism you could make that would be offensive to them is that David Miscavige alters Hubbard's writings. In other words, most Scientology criticism focuses on the fact that even standard correct Scientology is horribly abusive. And yet Scientologists don't necessarily care about that. They would care about, oh my God, but what if you altered Scientology? That would be the worst thing. And yet Mike Rinder did an excellent blog post highlighting some very key ways in which David Miscavige is a squirrel. And because this criticism, I think, is more appropriate for people who are still in the bubble, meaning that's who's going to most care about stuff like this, I just wanted to take a little bit of an opportunity to highlight Mike's blog post, since there are a lot of people who are still in the bubble that do, watch some of these videos. So let's take a crack at this. By the way, guys, the Degraded Daughters, let me change my view here real quick. The channel Degraded Daughters of Dianetics are going to be doing an interview, a book club video with Catherine Spallino, a former SEERG member who wrote a book recently called The Bad Cadet. That interview starting in about 15 minutes. This video is going to auto-direct to that video when it's done. So if you guys just hang in there with me, you'll be sent right over there. All right, so let's rock and roll. Let's see what Mike says. This, in other words, this is not going to be a long video is what I'm saying. Okay, so this is Mike Rinder's blog. I'm going to put a link to it in the description down below. If you have not yet bought and read or listened to Mike Rinder's book, A Billion Years, cannot recommend it highly enough. So let's see what Mike has to say. According to L. Ron Hubbard, David Miscavige is a suppressive squirrel. Look at that cute little squirrel. All right. All right, let me zoom in here. Okay, this is LRH quote. For some years now, we have had a word squirreling. It means altering Scientology, offbeat practices. It is a bad thing. Squirreling is today destructive of a workable system. And that's a quote from the L. Ron Hubbard policy letter, Safeguarding Technology. Mike says, a reader recently prompted me to look up LRH executive directives about the release of OT8. I came across LRH Executive Directive 301, Ron's Journal 30 from December 1978. While it does not say what the reader had recalled, I was struck by some things that have often been commented on as side notes, but if you put them all together, they are an indictment of David Miscavige, in Hubbard's terms, as damning as anything could be. All right, guys, this is actually what an LRH ED looks like. They call them blue on white. They have the force of policy. We're not going to bother to define all these words there, but you know, that's what it is. Okay, Mike says, Miscavige has systematically altered technology Hubbard dictated and was perfectly satisfied with, and in other cases has eradicated them altogether. Hubbard claimed that even noting something was historical or no longer used is an act of treason that can result in someone being declared a suppressive person. Those are the sort of squirrels Hubbard first developed fair game to eradicate. He's referring, of course, to the fair game policy that Hubbard wrote, saying that anyone in Scientology who's declared a suppressive person may be lied to, tricked, destroyed, ruined utterly, that kind of stuff. Okay, Mike says, let's begin with superpower. I'm going to try not to do too many explanations of the explanations that are forthcoming. Superpower is just a series of auditing actions that L. Ron Hubbard wrote about way back when and was released, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago. Okay, my MacBook seems to think that I'm trying to talk to it right now. So give me a moment, guys. All right. Anyway, okay, let's just get back to it. I don't want to explain the explanation. Okay, let's begin with superpower. Hubbard announced in this Ron's journal, it would be available to public in 6 weeks at St. Hills. Shit, I do have to explain this, guys. Okay, the Scientology organizational structure, generally speaking, can be divided up into management organizations and service organizations. Management organizations do not deliver Scientology to paying public. Service organizations do. Service organizations are then divided up into, at the lowest level, missions. At the next highest level, class 5 orgs. At the next highest level, class 6 orgs. At the next highest level, class 9 orgs, and then class 12 orgs. We're not going to define all those. A class 5 organization can deliver up to the level of clear. You've probably watched enough videos by now to know what clear means in Scientology. A class 6 organization can deliver what's called the alternate route to clear and power processing. No, that's the same thing. The alternate route to clear does involve power processing. So class 6 organizations deliver the alternate route to clear, and they can also deliver the class 6 auditor course. Class 9 organizations can deliver up to OT 5. Class 12 organizations can deliver up to OT 7 or 8. So in this context, when it says St. Hills, it's referring to a class 6 organization. That's as deep as we want to get into that right now. Okay, Mike says, let's begin with superpower. Hubbard announced in this Ron's journal it would be available to public in 6 weeks at St. Hills. Despite his hyperbole on the timing, he stated this was to be a service for the St. Hills. Kind of fit with power and power plus. Power and Power Plus are just two very specific and confidential auditing actions that are done on the alternate route to clear. And although this is not intended to be a whole Scientology lesson, in Scientology, generally speaking, these days, in order to go clear, you have to do the level of auditing called New Era Dianetics. And if you finish New Era Dianetics and you have not, according to Scientology, achieved the state of clear, you now are allowed to, eligible to, have to do what's called the alternate route to clear. That can only be done at St. Hills. By the way, in Scientology, this is where shit gets confusing. An org that is a St. Hill is completely different than the concept in Scientology of an org being what they call St. Hill size. Totally different things. This is one of the many examples of the confusing nature of Scientology's terminology. So, yeah, okay, I was explaining power and power plus. So there you go. Okay, so then Mike shows an excerpt of the LRHED that explains that superpower is intended to be a service for St. Hills. In fact, Mike says, in fact, he repeats himself on this point again in the same issue when describing the services available at St. Hill organizations. Remember, guys, not the same thing as St. Hill sized organizations. It's referring to organizations that are, in fact, St. Hills. All right. And he says superpower. So LRH is saying here, superpower is to be delivered at a St. Hill. The St. Hill Special Briefing Course is to be delivered at a St. Hill. The St. Hill Special Briefing Course is otherwise known as the Class 6 Auditor Training Course. And the Class 8 course is also supposed to be delivered at a St. Hill. Now, this is interesting because Scientologists in the bubble who are watching this will go, but that's but that's not true anymore. The Class 8 course is only delivered at Class 9 advanced organizations, and that's true. So, lots of shit has changed over the years. Okay. Mike says, note what Ron says about the briefing course and Class 8 courses. Both of these courses have been canceled by David Miscavige. They are not deemed historical. They no longer exist at all. Both courses consist primarily of lectures by L. Ron Hubbard, the two most important auditor training courses in Scientology. Hubbard was perfectly satisfied with these two courses in 1979, having spent a full year reviewing and updating the tech, as he describes in this LRH executive directive. He did not see that any changes needed to be made, but Miscavige knows better, and so these courses have been removed from the Scientology lineup altogether. That is the ultimate definition of a squirrel in the Scientology world. So for you guys who are still somewhat dwelling inside the Scientology bubble, and if you want to reach out to me to correct anything that you think is an inaccuracy in either Mike's blog post or my video, please do. You can reach me at growingupinscientology@gmail.com. It is widely known in the world of Scientology that you can no longer in present time do the St. Hill Special Briefing Course. You can also no longer do the Class 8 Auditor course. You simply can't. I'm sure there's all sorts of justifications and excuses. Of course, it has to do probably with the golden age of Tech 2 and the fact that Miscavige hasn't had a chance to update the briefing course to golden age of Tech 2 standards. And since there's no such thing as a golden age of Tech 2 Class 6, no one's eligible to do the Class 8 course in present time. And just really, these are excuses. I mean, L. Ron Hubbard said that even calling a book or a policy letter or an auditing procedure old or historical was considered an act of treason. Now consider what L. Ron Hubbard would say about completely canceling anyone's ability to do the St. Hill Special Briefing Course or to do the Class 8 course. The courses in Scientology that are considered the most on-source courses you could possibly do. These courses, the Class 6 course and the Class 8 course, are the epitome of what L. Ron Hubbard would have called standard tech. Now, again, I just can't help but commenting. I feel a little weird doing a video like this because the content of this video sort of implies that anyone should really give a shit about what L. Ron Hubbard says. And I don't. But Scientologists do. And that's kind of the point here. I mean, that is the point of Mike's blog post. Okay. All right. Mike continues. And then there is this. Hubbard goes on to describe all the services of FLAG. Guys, this refers to the FLAG land base in Clearwater, Florida. The final service LRH lists for FLAG is OT8. He did not contemplate OT8 being delivered on a ship that cannot support itself. It was to be a FLAG-only service. And then he shows the excerpt from this ED that specifically says FLAG is to deliver OT8. Okay, so again, let's change the view here. Guys, I didn't even know this. Somehow this had gone under my radar, when I was in Scientology. I do not ever remember reading this ED and going, oh shit, then why do we have the ship? Then why do we have the free winds? Because the propaganda in Scientology currently, and since 1988, is that OT8 is so powerful, such a threat to the powers that be, the secret people pulling the strings behind the scenes, controlling Earth, the SPs of the world, the international bankers, the evil psychiatrists, big pharma. OT8 could only be delivered off of the comm lines and the crossroads of the worlds out at sea. And that's why Scientology had to buy this cruise ship and spend tens of millions of dollars to buy and renovate this cruise ship. And Scientologists who want to do OT8 have to basically put their entire lives on hold, fly down to the Bahamas. It's a very expensive proposition. Doing anything on the free winds, which is the name of Scientology Ship, is a very expensive proposition. And lo and behold, according to L. Ron Hubbard, you don't need no goddamn ship. I didn't even know that, guys. Okay. So, Mike continues on. Finally, just for some giggles, Hubbard ends his Ron's journal with some crazy lies. He just could not help himself. But this part's not particularly relevant to the video I'm doing. although it's funny, L. Ron Hubbard makes a statement that Scientologists discovered, Scientology and Scientologists are the ones who discovered past lives. Let's see, where the hell does it say that? Oh my God. Okay, so LRH says, new books also got attention in 1978. Have You Lived Before This Life was introduced at the Atlanta Book Fair and in the hands of retail distributors began its own boom. It has gone 5x the normal bestseller and is still going. After all, we discovered past lives. What a strange thing to say. And clearly, L. Ron Hubbard could have taken a lesson from Grant Cardone, because Have You Lived Before This Life only did 5x the normal bestseller numbers. Those are rookie numbers, bro. I mean, if you're not at least 10x, then you're nothing. Didn't he know that? All right. So, all right. I guess that's all I've got on this. And we are pretty much right on time. Well, we still have 3 minutes until the other video goes, but that's okay. That is okay. All right, looking over to the comments, I don't see any super chats, and I haven't highlighted any questions because I haven't been looking at it. So why don't we just call it a wrap on this video, guys? I have much more to do today, but that's going to come a little later. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click